The Zelda 40th anniversary is coming pretty quickly. I know we're still celebrating Mario's 40th that culminates in the movie, according to Nintendo. It is still kind of crazy to me that the movie is literally the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Man, I'm so excited to actually see more of this and can't wait for it to come out in theaters. Definitely going to have to take my children to that movie day one. But what I'm actually really excited about, of course, is The Legend of Zelda. The 40th anniversary for that is at some point next year. Technically, it's like February. I think February 21st or something like that next year. But that doesn't mean that's when the celebrations are going to begin. They could begin as soon as January, or they could begin in the summer or fall or whatever. We don't really know when or even if there's going to be a 40th anniversary celebration. But what we do believe is happening is an Ocarina of Time remake. We've had rumors going on about this remake for years and years and years, and the rumors seem to just be ramping up the closer we get to the 40th anniversary, almost as if Ocarina of Time Remake could be part of that anniversary, and if not, come out next year, possibly released sometime around the movie in May of 2027. In fact, maybe the movie might even be based a little bit on Ocarina of Time, which can then create a tie-in and boost sales. Now, when we talk about an Ocarina of Time remake, we're actually talking about a from-the-ground up remake, something we haven't really seen much in The Legend of Zelda besides with games like Link's Awakening. And this is a really exciting prospect because this would likely be a visual showpiece game for Switch 2, but more than that, be a really nice tide me over until the next major brand new 3D Zelda is ready. It kind of just feels like a natural fit between, and Aonuma's given us hints and we have rumors out there, and now we have something going on potentially with something else that is related to Ocarina of Time that would heavily suggest they must be having more and more plans for Ocarina of Time moving forward, which could include a remake. Now, before we dive in, I want to remind you we are giving away 3 copies right now of Super Mario Galaxy 1+2 for Nintendo Switch or Switch 2. You can go ahead and enter through a link down in the pinned comment or the description. And you could also enter to win 5 copies of Kirby Air Riders. That giveaway link is also down in the description or the pinned comment. But we need to talk a little bit about how we got to where we are today. So if you want to know the most trustworthy, obvious things about there being an Ocarina of Time remake, that really just comes from Aonuma himself. First, in an interview a long time ago dealing with Rauru in Tears of the Kingdom, he said something along the lines of, bringing up the name of Rauru, and he wonders if like Zelda fans, gaming fans today, even remember who the original character was that had that name. That would be Rauru from Ocarina of Time, one of the sages. And then he mentions a little bit later when asked directly, hey, are you remastering Ocarina of Time? And he laughs about it. Whereas in that same interview, he was asked about a different Zelda remake game, and he just says no. So he could have said no as well to the Ocarina of Time one, but he didn't. Those are the 2 biggest hints we have coming directly from Nintendo, and we've actually gone over in the past how Aonuma has done this many, many times. He actually did this teasing Echoes of Wisdom before it ended up being announced as the playable Zelda. He's done this for the Link's Awakening remaster/remake. I would call it a remake. He did this for Skyward Sword HD. So he's got a long history. Actually, he did it for Majora's Mask 3D as well way back in the day. He's got a really, really long history of teasing the remasters and remakes, and even now a top-down Zelda game. So Aonuma does this. And because he does tease future releases, sometimes years away from when they happen, it is something that, we can't dismiss. It is our biggest piece of evidence because it comes from Eiji Aonuma himself, the producer of the Zelda series, and it's built on a pattern of behavior he has exhibited of teasing games in this same way. But there's been more things that have happened than that if you want to talk about from the official front. Last year, we had the release of the Great Deku Tree Lego set, which of course featured the amazing Deku Tree from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but also had the ability to turn it into the Great Deku Tree from Ocarina of Time. Really fascinating because, again, nothing's really happened with Ocarina of Time since the release of Ocarina of Time 3D back on the 3DS. So kind of interesting that that's the other Zelda game besides the modern day ones they wanted to reference with that Lego set. So that's all really cool. On top of that, obviously, Nash Weedle has said this remake is coming. doesn't know when. He keeps saying it's a ways off, but maybe could be teased next year, yada, 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 yada. He's also gone on to say that like there's going to be this big celebration next year, and there's going to be like 4 major events for Zelda. And one of those events might have actually already been revealed, or at least leaked out there, at least rumored. Now, obviously, people don't always know whether they could trust Nash Wheel or not. And this is a nice little document you're seeing right here that Andres Restart has put together about the things he's been right about, wrong about, iffy, etc. Like, you can do with that what you will, but what I want to actually focus on is something that has nothing to do with Nash Weedle, but is actually brand new. And this is something that I've already talked about over on X, but have yet to put in a video. And that is this rumor that comes from, well, a community called BrickTap. It says comes from the BrickTap community on Discord, which I did join to verify. That is really on top of this stuff. Like, they are way on top of Lego rumors, and pretty much everything that appears in that community ends up being correct. This would be the second Zelda set, and that makes it 2 out of 2 that reference directly Ocarina of Time. I'm like, remake gaining steam, and here's what the set is. It's supposedly an Ocarina of Time Ganondorf diorama. We don't know if this is what it's going to look like. That's obviously just official art, but it's set 77093. It's supposedly going to be 1,003 pieces and coming out on March 1st, 2026. Again, this comes from the BrickTap community, comes from a member over there. And this is all really interesting because that does happen shortly after the actual 40th anniversary of Zelda, making it seem like this could be a 40th anniversary announcement. So I find that just to be really, really interesting, as maybe Zelda's 40th is part of the Nintendo Direct happening in February, at least one that we suspect will be happening. So I just find that interesting that this Lego set could be announced and could be part of the 40th, because that would officially make Ocarina of Time as part of the 40th anniversary. On top of that, we obviously know a Zelda movie is coming. We have, the actress and actor for Zelda, Princess Zelda, and Link already revealed. But it will be fascinating if there's any sort of tie-in to Ocarina of Time, because that's what they did with Galaxy 1 and 2, having those games come out, and obviously getting to the Galaxy movie. Now, this all comes full circle because it just adds to the speculation that Nintendo is actually working on a Ocarina of Time remake. And when we think about it, it makes a lot of sense for a remake to be coming. A remake would give us something to really tide over Switch 2 owners, especially as we wait for 3D Zelda that's likely 2, possibly even 3 years away. So could be a while. After all, we just got a brand new one in 2023. And that's about how long it takes to just get another one made, is usually 5 to 6 years. So again, you're kind of looking at 2028, 2029. So having a big 3D Zelda remake come out in between could be possible. And who knows, maybe it was even handled by the internal team as they were testing things with Switch 2 hardware. I have no idea. Or it could have been outsourced to somebody else. Maybe a team at Bandai Namco has been working on it or something. I have no idea. But yeah, this would just be really cool and would obviously be a visual showcase. Would there be new content? I have no idea, right? That's all speculation. But this rumor actually dates all the way back to, I believe, Game Over Jesse. Years back, I'd heard from some of his sources that there was an Ocarina of Time remake coming. And I just got to say that, to me, it just starts to make sense. You start to have a couple Lego sets related to it. This comes off of the heels of Aonuma mentioning Ocarina of Time with Rauru. This comes off the heels of him being asked about it and not denying it and just laughing. And then obviously you have the rumors on top, and you start to build this picture that it seems that an Ocarina of Time remake is almost expected. Now, again, there's no guarantee here. Nintendo hasn't announced anything. Just like, we assume there's going to be a 3D Mario and a 3D Zelda and Smash Bros. And Animal Crossing on Nintendo Switch 2, brand new games at some point. Until they're announced, nothing is promised. And I'm not going to sit here and act like Nintendo is promising this just because they put out some light teasing, which could ultimately have just been for the Lego sets or just mean nothing, right? But I do need to note here that it is interesting that Ocarina of Time keeps coming back up the closer and closer we get to the 40th anniversary. First with the Tears of the Kingdom interviews, then the Lego set last year, now potentially a new Lego set next year. And before you know it, Ocarina of Time just keeps getting brought to the forefront and is one of those IPs that is known, but maybe not known by the new generation of Zelda players that discovered Zelda for the first time with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And if you're going to bring back a fully from the ground up remade game in 3D, it makes a lot of sense to use Ocarina of Time, as that is one of the highest, if not the highest rated games of all time. We saw Final Fantasy VII make a similar comeback with its remake. So maybe it's just Ocarina of Time's turn. And there's been a lot of success with Final Fantasy VII. Nintendo's probably seen that. They know it's directly coming to their platform. So it would just make sense if we're getting that Final Fantasy VII sort of reimagined, remade. Why not get Ocarina of Time as well? And then we kind of complete that generations of like the greatest games from that gen. Obviously, there's a lot of great games every single generation. So these are just two of the greatest, but you know what I mean. I truly think that Ocarina of Time Remake is coming. I do actually believe we're going to get it. I know you should remain skeptical and you shouldn't allow your hype to get as high as mine. And maybe there's just a lot of hopium and copium here. But to me, this is just an inevitability. I've always felt like Ocarina of Time Remake is just around the corner. We just have to get there. And the 40th anniversary always made the most sense to be the time to reveal it, even if it doesn't release next year. Then I would assume it's going to release around the movie in 2027. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think about this stuff down in the comments below. Am I just way off base and off my rocker and just losing it? Or am I onto something here and we just have more evidence added to the pile? And before you know it, this thing is a reality. I guess we'll find out, won't we? Hey, everyone. I'm Nathaniel Rufflejans from Nintendo Prime. And as always, I'll catch you in the next video.